Good afternoon and welcome to In Focus with Silvana Pavlovska, a program which is broadcast regularly during the week. And today we are going to continue the series which we started a while ago, or titled The Macedonian Question. We are going to be publicly revealing some documents that may not necessarily, you may not have come across them yourselves. And this way we are hoping that they will be widely accessible to people who may not know of this matter. So continuing our series on the Macedonian question, which we've done previously. Today's document comes to us with permission from Professor Igor Yanev. And it is, in fact, a letter which contains the logo of the Republic of Macedonia, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Republic of Macedonia. The date on this letter is 10th of June 2002. 10th of June 2002, Skopje, and it's addressed to Mr. Kofi Annan, Secretary General of the United Nations, New York. Request for inclusion of a resolution on the UNGA's next session agenda. Professor Igor Yanev starts the letter by saying, "Your Excellency, I have the honor to address you with the questions of legality of the conditions imposed on the Republic of Macedonia for its admission to the United Nations membership and the legal status of Macedonia in the United Nations. In this context, I take the liberty of reminding you that the admission of Republic of Macedonia to the United Nations membership in April 1993 by the General Assembly, GA, Resolution 47/225, 1993, pursuant the Security Council recommendation for such admission, that is Security Council Resolution 817 from 1993, was associated with the provision that the applicant state be, in quotation, provisionally referred to for all purposes within the United Nations as the former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia, pending settlement of the difference that has arisen over the name of the state." End of quotation. The last part of this provision implies negotiation with Greece over the name of Macedonia and is more explicitly spelled out in the Security Council Resolution 817 from 1993. I would also like to remind you that the objections of the Macedonian government to the above-mentioned denomination FIREM and to the non-standard admission procedure contained in the United Nations document capital S/25541 1993 were ignored. The aim of the present letter, sir, is to submit our request to include in the agenda of the next session of the United Nations General Assembly a resolution requesting an advisory opinion from the International Court of Justice regarding the legal validity and legality of above-mentioned resolutions in their parts related to the use of a provisional name for Macedonia within the United Nations and to negotiate with Greece on that subject. The basis for this request is our strong view that the conditions for admission of Republic of Macedonia to the United Nations membership, namely, 1, acceptance to be provisionally referred to within the United Nations as former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia, and 2, acceptance to negotiate with Greece over its name, are inconsistent with the provisions of the UN Charter. This inconsistency is manifested, in our opinion, on 3 levels. 1, procedural level, right of a state to unconditional admission to United Nations membership once it has been recognized by the judgment of the Security Council that the state fulfills the criteria for admission set forth in Article 4, paragraph 1 of the Charter. 2, substantive level interference of the United Nations organizations in matters of a state, such as the choice of its constitutional name, which are essentially within the domestic jurisdiction of that state, contrary to Article 2, in brackets 7 of the Charter. And 3, membership legal status. Inequality with other United Nations member states due to the additional obligation, that is number 2, and derogated judicial personality in the field of representation due to the condition 1, contrary to the principle of, quotation, sovereign equality of the members, Article 2, in brackets 1 of the Charter. That the conditions 1 and 2 served indeed as conditions for admission of Macedonia to United Nations membership and are additional with respect to those set forth in Article 4, in brackets 1 of the Charter, is evident from A, the neglect of the objection of the Macedonian government to the imposition of the condition 1 contained in the United Nations document capital S/25541/1993. B, they are functionally disconnected with the judgment on admission as they transcend in time the act of admission, thus transforming themselves into membership obligations. C, they are introduced despite the explicit recognition in the Security Council Resolution 817/1993 that, quotation, the applicant fulfills the criteria, end of quotation, of Article 4 in brackets 1 of the Charter for admission. D, the fulfillment of the obligation, 2, does not depend solely on Macedonian government, but essentially on the recognition of Macedonian legal identity by another state, which is contrary to the criteria on the legality of imposing conditions relating to the recognition of a state by another state, member of the United Nations, enshrined in the advisory opinion of May 28, 1948 of the International Court of Justice. The procedural inconsistency of the conditions 1 and 2 with the Charter's provisions follows, in our view, clearly and directly from the interpretation of Article 4, 1 in bracket, of the Charter by the International Court of Justice, given in its advisory opinion of May 28, 1948, as a legal rule. We remind that this interpretation was adopted by the General Assembly the same year. See General Assembly Resolution 197/3, 1948. According to that interpretation, the conditions laid down in Article 4 in brackets 1 of the Charter are explicit and exhaustive. That is, they're necessary and sufficient. Once they're recognized as being fulfilled, the applicant state acquires an unconditional right to admission to the United Nations membership. And conversely, the organization has a duty to admit such applicant due to its, in brackets, openness for admission, enshrined in the same Article 4, in brackets 1, and due to its universal character, in the words of Court's advisory opinion and the resolution GA 197/3/1948. Quotation, A member of the United Nations, when pronouncing its vote in the General Assembly or Security Council, is not jurisdictionally entitled to make its consent on the admission of a state to the United Nations membership dependent on conditions not expressly provided in Article 4 in brackets 1. The inconsistency of conditions 1 and 2 with Article 2 in brackets 7 of the Charter follows, in our view, from the fact that the name of a state as a legal identity of an international legal person is an essential element of its juridical personality. The choice by a state of its own name is therefore an inherent right of that state and belongs essential the choice of a state of its own name is therefore inherent right of that state and belongs stricto sensu in the domain of its domestic jurisdiction. According to the principle of separability of domestic and international jurisdictions, the choice of its own name by a state does not create international legal rights for that state, nor does it impose legal obligations on other states. Therefore, the name of a state per se has no relevance to the qualifications that may be legally considered in connection with the admission of that state to the United Nations membership. Finally, the conditions 1 and 2 obviously define an unequal United Nations membership status for Macedonia with respect to other member states. This status severely violates the principle of, quotation, sovereign equality of members, close of quotation, Article 2 in brackets 1 of the Charter, and strongly derogates the juridical personality of Republic of Macedonia. It is inconsistent with the principles of judicial equality of states. See General Assembly Resolution 2625 in brackets 25 of the 24th of October 1970, and non-discrimination in representation and membership. See United Nations document A/CONF.67/16 of March the 14th, 1975. I would like, sir, to bring to your attention also the, quotation, memorandum on the legal aspects of the problem of representation in the United Nations. United Nations document S/1466 of 1958, which also has relevance to the admission of Republic of Macedonia to the United Nations membership. In this document, prepared by the United Nations Secretariat for the Secretary General, it is clearly stated that the admission to the United Nations membership as a collective act of the General Assembly is based on the right to membership of any state that meets the prescribed criteria for membership, Article 4 in brackets 1 of the Charter, and has no relation to the recognition of the state by another state. The Greek opposition to the admission of Republic of Macedonia to the United Nations membership under its constitutional name and its reflection in the imposition of conditions 1 and 2 was essentially linking impermissibly the two legal acts and their respective preconditions. In connection with the views expressed above regarding the legal basis of the imposed conditions 1 and 2, for admission of the Republic of Macedonia to the United Nations membership and the related to them legal status of the Republic of Macedonia as a UN member, we kindly request that the attached resolution be placed as an item on the agenda of the next session of the General Assembly of the United Nations. I believe, sir, that the clarification of the above legal matters by the International Court of Justice will help to better understand the legal quality and legal consequences of the resolutions, General Assembly Resolution 47/225, 1993, and the Security Resolution 817 of 1993, and indicate the directions of possible future actions. Accept, sir, the assurance of my highest consideration, is the last sentence in this letter. Sincerely yours, Igor Yanev. Dr. Igor Yanev, Special Advisor to the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Macedonia. And attached to this letter, which I've read to you with the permission from Professor Igor Yanev, we had the draft resolution. The General Assembly, considering Article 2 of the Charter of the United Nations, considering Article 4 of the Charter of the United Nations, considering Article 96 of the Charter of the United Nations, considering the General Assembly Resolution 113/2 of 1947, considering the General Assembly Resolution 197/3 of 1948, and considering the advisory opinion of the International Court of Justice of the 28th of May, 1948. For the purpose to determine whether additional conditions were imposed in the procedure of admitting, in quotation, the former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia, end of quote, to the membership of the United Nations outside the scope of the exhaustive conditions of Article 4, 1 in brackets, of the Charter of the United Nations, decides to submit the following legal question to the International Court of Justice. And the question is, are the specific conditions enshrined in Resolution GA Res 47/225, 1993 of the General Assembly and the SC Resolution 817, 1993 of the Security Council in their parts relating to the denomination, bracket in quotation, former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia, end of brackets, with the, end of quotations, I should say, with the requirement for settlement of, quotation, difference that has risen over the name of the state, end of quote, outside the scope of the exhaustive conditions of Article 4, 1 in brackets of the Charter of the United Nations and legally in accordance with the Charter of the United Nations. So that was the question, and that was the letter, and that was that was sent by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Macedonia to Honorable Excellency Kofi Annan, General Secretary of the United Nations in New York, dated June the 10th, 2002. So that's all I've got for you for now. We will continue with this series on the Macedonian question in a few days' time. So until then, thank you for your attention. I'm looking forward to seeing you soon. Silvana Pavlovska wishing you a marvelous day and week. Bye.